Hello everyone, welcome to yet another episode of our Python programming series. Today we will take a look at OpenAI Responses API and we will interact with it in Python without using any abstract libraries. Okay, so let's get started. The first thing I would like to do is to, well, as usual, create a virtual environment. Then I'm going to activate it, just like that. And now I will create a new requirements.txt file. We will need the requests library and also python-.env. To install these, we just need to use pip install-r requirements.txt. Once these are installed, you will also need one more thing, and that is an OpenAI API key. There are many tutorials on how to get this. Basically, you will have to create an account on the OpenAI website and also, unfortunately, enter your credit card credentials. But once you get that done and pay like $5 or something, you will have access to the API key. Alright, so let's create a file. Also, once you have the API key, you will have to create a new .env file, and after the equal sign, just paste the API key here. Alright. First, let's import the request library, and also from .env, import load.env. This function will basically set the variables here as the environment variables. Okay, now we also need OS, and also from prettyprint import prettyprint just for nice displaying of JSON, and also import JSON. Now we have to load our .env by like this, and let's define our OpenAI API key. This thing here basically imports the variable set here to our Python script. Nothing special. Right, first let's test if this is actually working. I'm just going to try to list the models from the... Once we have that URL here, we also need to define the headers. We need the authorization header and an f string, bearer, OpenAI API key. Now we just need to do a response.get, and let's just return our response. Now if underscore name equals underscore main, let's invoke our function python script.py. Okay, it is working, but actually I would like to return the JSON here. As you can see, we have listed all of the models that OpenAI currently provides to their users. Nice. Okay, I'm going to comment that out, and let's actually try to talk to AI. To do that, I'm going to define a simple function called simple request and pass to it user input and also a variable called store, which will be by default set to false. The URL for this is openai.com/v1/responses. Now we have to copy the headers the same as here. And we also need a body. And the body for a simple responses API call looks like this. First we have to tell the model we are using, then pass the input, user input, and then also we really don't need that, but it's kind of important. We need to pass the store. And what this tells us, or the backend, is should this response be stored in the OpenAI servers? Because if we set this to true, we can later recover our message to the AI. Okay, let's do response.requests.post. Now we have to post.get. Normal stuff, headers, and also pass, sorry, not like this, more like this, and return response.json. Alright, now let's test if this works. Simple request, hello, how are you? I'm just going to call it x and print x. Alright, and as you can see, we've got something. Here, we have, oh, hello, I'm doing well, thank you for asking, how can I assist you today? So you can see that there's a lot of other variables here. The response ID, what object it is, when it was created, and other stuff. I would like to display it in a nicer way. So to do that, I'm going to use pprint json.dump string x, and also set the indent to 4. And this should make it, yeah, look nicer. And as you can see, our response text is embedded inside the output variable, and also inside an array, and then inside content, and inside text. Whew. That's deep, that's deep. Alright, so we can just recover this variable by using a normal Python dictionary. Now we have to select the first element in this array, and now content and text. Let's see if it works. Synthesis must be integers or slices, not string. Alright, because the content is also an array. Okay, so this is our text response. Okay, but what if we want to preserve the context of our conversation? Like, if I try to send another request saying, I don't know, what did I just ask you? If you're referring to a previous question, there was no prior question. So see, this does not preserve the conversation by itself. Oh, but one more thing before we talk about the chat history, I would like to show that how the store works. If we set the store to true, and then get the ID of our response, we can recover it. I'm going to do a simple function for that, called the recover request, and it will only take one parameter ID. Now, first, we need to add ID to our URL at the end, just like that, and also make it an F string. Now let's copy the headers. We don't need the body, we just need a because we are sending a GET request. All right, and now if I do a equals recover request of our ID, then print the same thing here, instead as A, this should work, see? This was saved on the OpenAI servers, but if I set it to false, so we get an error, key error output, because this does not exist. We get the error message not found. Okay, let's construct our chat history now. To do that, I'm going to define another function called simple history, or maybe simple request history. And there will be three parameters: a message list, a system message, and also the store default variable. Now the URL is also the same as here. The headers, also we don't really need more. Now the body. It will be similar to this, so model is GPT-4.1. And now the input will not be a simple string, but instead an array. And the first thing we want to add to our request is the system message. A system message is basically telling AI what it should be like, or how should it respond. Like, it's not really a user message because the AI chatbot doesn't answer the system message. Okay, so let's just do role system, and now content should be type colon input underscore text and text system message. So not this, but this here. And the next thing here, we have to pass also the messages, but not in a simple way. We also need a star here because we want to unwrap this list. And also after that, let's do the store parameter. Store. Now I'm not going to really use it much later. It will be just set to false all the time. Oops, not here, but here. Okay, now we can send a request pretty much the same way as here. Nice. Now to test if this works, we have to make an array of messages. And the structure of the message is pretty much the same as the thing here, but even smaller. So let's declare an array called messages. So I'm going to comment that out for now. And inside here, I'm going to add one user message that says, hello, what is the capital of USA? And let's say our AI answered something like that, Washington, DC. And then when the user asks again, what did I just ask you? The AI should respond. So let's do response equals simple request history messages. Now system message, I would just write it something like, you are a helpful assistant. Let's print response output 0. You asked what is the capital of USA. See? Now the context has been preserved between these different messages. And we can add the message that the AI responded simply to this array. Well, to do that, I'm simply going to do messages.append instead of print here. And now let's do another question. We also need to append a user message. So to do that, let's create another dictionary. Maybe copy the contents of the first item here. And instead of hello, what is the capital of USA, let's just do what is the capital of Poland. And let's now also invoke this function and print it. And also response output 0. And this should do capital of Poland is Warsaw. Okay. So the last one thing to show you that the history is really working. And let's add this again. Let's also add another question. What about which capitals did I ask you? And again invoke the simple request history and print it. And here we have, you asked me about the capitals of the USA and Poland. Perfect. But I don't really like one thing here, and it's that I have to wait quite a bit of time before I see the response, because if I ask a more descriptive question like describe those two capitals in detail, it is going to take a bit of time. As you can see here, it takes much longer and the query is complicated a little more. Oh, there we go. And to fix that, I would like to do one more method, which would be called simple request history stream. I'm going to copy the arguments and also copy the contents of that function, because they will be very similar to each other. And now we have to add keyword here, stream set to true. And instead of a post here, you'll have to do something a bit complicated. First, we'll have to define a request session. And now with session.post, and here we paste these things. And we also have to paste stream equals true. And then as response, we have to yield each chunk that the OpenAI backend will generate. So let's just do that. And we don't need a return here. Now this function is not a normal function anymore. This is a generator. So let's maybe simple request history stream now. And as you can see, we can no longer do this. Okay, and now we need to iterate through each chunk in the response. So for chunk in response, let's for now simply print the chunk and see what it is under the hood. Whoa! As you can see here, the tokens are displayed one by one. See, here's a word, here's a question mark. And that's basically a part of that whole response. But we don't want that. We want a readable format. So I'm going to declare one more. This is the last one, I promise. One more function. Parse AI stream response. And this function will just parse the stream from here. So let's start the same. For chunking response, I'm going to declare a variable called chunk s, which will be a decoded chunk, because this is, as you can see, a binary string. And the format is UTF-8. Now, we can see here that it is like event, data, and empty line. Like these are the three streams. Three chunks, I'm sorry. So if event is the first 5 characters, I'm going to get another chunk, which will be the data, which has those parts of the response. I'm going to do chunk equals next response. It will be this. And now I want to decode that chunk into a JSON. So I'm going to use JSON.load string. And we also need to decode that next chunk. And also we have to skip that data part. So I'm just going to start from the 5th character. And now we have those types here. As you can see, this is text delta and this is text done. So if chunk JSON type is response.output text.delta, I'm going to simply print this. We also need to use the flash and end with a empty string, because we don't want to move to the next line after every print. Okay, and else, if the JSON type is the item done, so something like this, I'm going to return the item, because that will be basically this, an assistant message. And if for some reason this does not return an item done, I'm going to simply raise an exception. Error, no output item. Okay. And now if we do parse AI stream response, the response, this should hopefully work. Let's see. And there we go. Whoops. Perfect. This looks really nice. Now to finish up this tutorial, I'm going to create a new file and we will make a simple command line interface chatbot. We're going to call it CLI-bot.py. Okay, and first let's import from our previous file these two functions. This will be the only functions we need. Now if the name is main, let's declare a messages array, and let's also declare a system message. You're an AI talking like a pirate, because why not? And one more thing, the title and some way to exit. I'm going to call this epic CLI AI, and we'll just print X to stop. Now, while true, this will be our main program loop, we want to get an input from our user. And if that input is an X, we'll simply break out of the loop. Maybe it's not the most elegant solution, but whatever. Now, we need to declare a new message that will have the content user input and be the role of user, we have to add that message to our messages array. Let's also add a separator from the user message. And now what we need to do is simply call our function, which will return a generator. And also let's display that response and save it to the AI message. Now let's also add a separator. Oops. Okay, and there's one more. Okay, nice. And the last thing, let's just append that to our messages array. Now when I run the CLI bot, I can do hi. Ahoy mate, what brings your salty self aboard me ship this fine day? See, that's why we use a system message. It just, you can set the personality of the AI or give it some knowledge, whatever. Describe to me what programming is. iOS matey, programming you say, well that's whatever. Nice. Thanks. Oops, those. Something went wrong with those emojis, but whatever. Goodbye. And press X to exit. Okay, and this concludes the first part of this tutorial. Next part we will take a look at the tools and structured output. Because maybe, you know, we want the AI to do something on our computer or to send a request to some remote server or, you know, calculate something. And to do that we need these two things, structured output and tools. But that will be in the next episode. Thank you so much for watching.